We're 15 minutes after 8 o'clock on a Friday morning, and you know what it's time to do. We're going to film school. Film study professor Joe Fortunato. 93.5, 1590 WAKR. Good morning to you, 15 minutes after 8 o'clock. And Joe, I've been plugging it. You're going to hit, I think, a real funny one for us today. Take us to film school, my friend.
Well, good morning, Ray. Good morning, everybody. And, yeah, we're going to talk about one of the great or most beloved comedies of all time, Tootsie, from 1982, which was released December 17th, 1982. So it's celebrating, or it did this past month, celebrate its 40th anniversary, if you can believe that. It was directed by Sidney Pollack and written by Larry Gelbart from MASH, with a number of other uncredited writers. It did win one Oscar for Best Supporting Actress with Jessica Lange. It had 9 nominations in all, which is quite a bit, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Writing, and so on and so forth. Of course, the stars Dustin Hoffman, as I mentioned, Jessica Lange, Terry Garr, Dabney Coleman, Charles Durning, Bill Murray. It's really a who's who of a lot of comedic greats and supporting people. In 2007, the AFI list ranked it as the 69th greatest movie of all time, and it was in the top 100 funniest American movies at number 2. That's pretty high. It wasn't the movie had great reviews when it came out, but since then it's really even kind of grown in some critical stature. And like I said, it's now considered one of the great comedies.
With us, of course, is Joe Fortunato taking us to film school. You mentioned the cast and putting it together. This was a huge one for Dustin Hoffman. Wouldn't you agree, Joe? And he needed this big hit at that time if you go back to 82.
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman obviously has been working pretty steadily, and he had just come off an Oscar winner. Well, not just, but with Kramer versus Kramer in 1979 a few years ago. But this one definitely slingshotted him, that's a word, kind of back into the limelight. And, it was a difficult role, as you kind of might imagine for him. What's kind of funny is, of course, for those who aren't familiar, he plays the dual role of Michael Dorsey, a failed actor or a struggling actor, I guess I should say, and his alter ego, Dorothy Michaels, dressed up as a woman who becomes a soap opera star. In the film's closing credits, he actually gets 2 credits, one for Michael Dorsey and one for Dorothy Michaels. He actually refused to play the role until he had passed a screen test as Dorothy, because he wanted to be convincing as a woman and not just sort of a parody, drag act. He actually tried his role as Dorothy. He got dressed up as Dorothy, passed himself off at his daughter's parents' night as her Aunt Dorothy, and his performance was so strong he convinced the teachers, so he took the role. One of the great challenges for him in this role was getting the voice right. And allegedly he received help from his friend and co-star Meryl Streep, who I mentioned was with him in Kramer versus Kramer. He would read the role of Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire, and she would sort of offer feedback. And the character didn't really originally have a Southern accent, but when Hoffman was doing his research, he discovered that his voice sort of fell into that range of female pitch more naturally while doing the accent. So that's kind of how that came to be. And, of course, there was a lot of makeup and preparation, shaving legs, arms, things like that. But no amount of makeup could conceal Hoffman's 5 o'clock shadow for very long. So he could only be filmed for 3 or 4 hours at a time before they'd have to shave.
Joe Fortunato looking at Tootsie. Joe, I've heard the stories, but you're much more centered in on this than me, that this role that Dustin Hoffman had in this movie as Michael, difficult to work with, reflected a little bit of him personally in Hollywood. What have you heard? Has he had the reputation of difficult to work with on sets or not?
Yes, he does, and no one really claimed that for Tootsie. He did claim that after playing Tootsie, he went home and burst into tears and confessed to his wife that playing a woman forced him to confront his own sexist perceptions of women that he really never realized that he had. So it was kind of a game changer for him personally. And he later said in an interview that he really had that epiphany he discarded or discredited so many women in his life that were really interesting people. And he kind of sort of, in that regard, he never regarded this film as a comedy for him. It was, almost a tragedy for him.
So there you go, the movie Tootsie from 1982. Joe, anything else that you wanted to make sure you passed on to the listeners pertaining to this big hit?
Well, a couple things. First of all, Bill Murray agreed to omit his name in the opening credits so that audience wouldn't be expecting a Bill Murray movie in the form of Meatballs or Caddyshack. Some of the names that were considered for some of the roles, Cher was up for the Jessica Lange role. Michael Caine and Peter Sellers were actually considered for the role of Michael Dorsey, also Dudley Moore. Robin Williams, who later went on to play Mrs. Doubtfire, so he kind of did that a little bit. So that's some of the casting. A couple of more things before I say goodbye this week. I don't usually do this, but one, I did want to make a recommendation. A lot of people are familiar that Tom Hanks has a new movie, A Man Called Otto, that's out, that's receiving some nice reviews. I wanted to mention that the original film, A Man Called Ove, it's a Swedish film, which won the Oscar a few years ago for Best Foreign Language Film, is actually available for free on Amazon Prime, and it's a real gem of a movie. I know sometimes people don't like foreign language films or whatever, but trust me, a lot of people have Amazon Prime for free. It's definitely worth checking out. It does have comedic elements, but it's a tearjerker, so have the hankies ready. And one other sort of promotion or announcement.
Sure.
A lot of times people ask me, hey, I wish I could take your class. Well, now you can, because I'm doing an online version of Fortunato Film School on January 23rd and 24th. It's a two-part class on Casablanca. So I will be screening Casablanca with you online and doing live commentary. And you can find out more information about that if you go to Facebook events and just search for Fortunato Film School Casablanca. It's a public event. You should be able to find out the info. It is free, but you do need to register in advance. So that's Fortunato Film School Casablanca, January 23rd and 24th, and hopefully some of our listeners will be able to participate.
And again, Joe, how do they find that location again?
On Facebook events,
okay.
Search for Fortunato Film School Casablanca, and all the links there of how to register and everything is in that event.
That will be terrific. All right, Joe, good connection again this week, Joe. Looking at Tootsie. We'll do it again next Friday morning. As always, my friend, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Ray.
There you go. Joe Fortunato. He takes us to film school each and every Friday morning at this time. If you missed a part of that, it's always available for you at WAKR.net. WAKR.net. 22 minutes after 8 o'clock. 93.5, 1590 WAKR.